Hello everybody, it's the Outco Diesel Guy with a long overdue video. First off, I must apologize for the lack of content that's been posted to my channel as of late. About 2 weeks ago I got shifted over to the midnight shift, and that has really slowed up my content creation ability to a certain extent. It's hindered that process. On top of that, I have been having the world's most difficult or challenging time trying to locate one of these E60CPs for my Bachmann project, which is being held up, which in turn is holding everything else up by this engine, of course. The main issue being that every one of these engines I've run into so far, and I've gone through 3 of them so far, all have cracked gears. Now, I would combine parts to get one of these working as good as this engine looks, and it is in perfect condition besides the drive system, but unfortunately the story is always the same. The same gears are broken all the way across, and because these engines are out of production for who knows how long now, you can't buy the parts new, and even finding them in good shape is becoming a challenge. So if anyone has a lead on one of these old school models, the old school pancake drive truck-equipped units that's in good working order, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be more than willing to pay for it. I'm just getting desperate trying to find one. I'm not giving up. It is delaying me, but I would love to find one of these and finally get this video out to you folks. Now that's it. Before I go any further, I also want to thank everyone out there for subscribing and liking my videos. Since I revamped this channel back in February, I have doubled the subscribers of this channel. So a heartfelt thanks from me. I can't thank you folks enough for all that. I'm going to continue to do my best to get content out. Hopefully I'll be able to get to something more resembling a more realistic schedule once I finally get this Bachmann project out. That said, today's video is going to be about how you can save money on your layout. There's a common theory in model railroading and common misconception that you have to buy all the parts from the hobby shop, and yes, you should support your local hobby shop, don't get me wrong on that, but at the same time there are ways of getting around having to do that, especially if you don't have a hobby shop nearby you, or especially if you don't want to deal with a model railroad manufacturer that is jacking its prices up. Gee, guess who I'm talking about there, and you just like to save money in general. There are a lot of really interesting ways you can save some cash in modifying things, wiring things, etc., and that's what today's video is going to be about, as well as maintaining things to a certain extent. Let's start off with one of those common things I always hear. Everyone thinks, it seems now, and this is something I can't get past, that you have to have a Dremel to do any kind of modification on a locomotive. And yes, it does make things easier to a certain extent, but it can also make things a little bit more complicated. I'll get into more of the details on the Dremel in general, especially the entry-level models, in a second. But the fact of the matter is, this might seem shocking, but most of my modifications you see me do with my engines, the locomotives I build, etc., can be done with one of these. This is your typical $5, I think it was $5.99 at my local Lowe's, hacksaw, and basically I use this to cut the weights. I use this to cut even some of the wood pieces you saw on my trestle. All of those were cut with one of these saws. I say one of these because not long after I bought this one, through a lot of jumbling around, I managed to lose it. I don't know what I did with it. I found it's actually sitting right where I thought it was. It had gotten misplaced somehow. And basically wound up at my local Walmart and found that if the $5 was basically too rich for you, basically, you can go to your local Walmart and spend $2 less about it and get this one, exactly the same saw under the Hyper Tough name. Now you might think $5, this can't be anything great, or $4, $3, that's not going to be anything great. Well, okay, fine, the blade isn't the last word, it's not the greatest quality ever seen to man, but it's $5, or rather $4, depending on where you buy it from, or even $3 if you get it on sale. And besides that, while the blades might not be the greatest, you can actually go and pick up replacements from your local Walmart for about $2.88, and you don't get 1, you don't get 2, you don't get 3, you don't get 4, you get 5 blades for that much. Again, $2.88, I believe this was, plus taxes, 5 blades. So really, for those prices, if the blade breaks, just replace the darn thing. It just isn't worth getting too upset about. Now, of course, the other detail is filing. You're going to always, if you're going to cut something, you need to file it off, especially to avoid electrical circuit problems, etc., shorts, etc., cut wires. Well, yeah, this can be solved again at your local Walmart. Again, 2 something, 3 something. I think this is $3.88 at my local Walmart. Does the job. They have a more sophisticated version that's about $1 or $2 more. Does everything you need to. Yes, it requires elbow grease, but since when is exercising such a bad thing? So bottom line, there are alternatives. Now, for those of you out there who have your hearts set on a Dremel, and I understand that I have a geek side to myself, of course, you can go out and buy a Dremel from your local Walmart. This one here will get you, originally it cost me close to $100 when I got this back in the day. Now it sells for something like 50, 60 bucks. It's got a whopping 2 speeds on it. This is not plugged in. This extra plastic piece is something I added on. It does a decent job, but you don't have very much to show for itself. And some of the quality controls, I had one of the higher end, I think it is a Dremel 400 that actually failed on me because the bearing is shot, and I think those got discontinued. Not sure exactly what the model was on that unit. Anyway, you could do that. You could spend this much for this very limited unit, but why would you when you could go to your local Walmart again and buy this little character over here. This is the Hyper Tough Rotary tool, as it's marketed as. And unlike the Dremel, which has just 2 speeds to choose from, this has a lot of what the higher end models have in terms of speed control, this rotary dial. So in short, you have sort of almost unlimited speed controls, even a max setting there, as you see that clicks in if you push it too far. It's a really unique little gimmick, this thing. It works really well. It hasn't failed me now, and best of all, it is fully compatible with the Dremel accessories. I actually have a Dremel cutting disc on this right now, which I was using to cut some wood the last time I had this on. It works perfectly well, it does its job very nicely, and best of all, it costs less than the Dremel and offers you more options than the Dremel, so really, how can you go wrong? And you don't just get this too. Unlike most basic Dremels that come with a very limited toolkit, this includes this little toolbox and a much more, shall we say, extensive toolkit located right on the bottom here. As we can see, all kinds of grinding tools, cutting discs, the adjustment wrench, pretty much everything you would possibly need to get a basic project off the ground. And you can always add more things to it. Again, this whole line of Hyper Tough sells its own line of accessories, which are again 100% backwards compatible with the Dremel on top of everything else. So really, you can't go wrong for these models, especially when you get a nice little cases. I'll demonstrate here because I forgot to put this away to put it all into. Here's some extra brushes this also comes with. And yeah. So yeah, why would you buy a Dremel when you can get all this for a much lower price? This again usually sells at Walmart for full retail for $30, but I have found you can frequently find this on sale, and what I have paid also for one of these things, you can get it for as little as $20 or $19.95, which is what the usual retail price for all those familiar with retail or buying retail things. Usually $19.95 because stores don't like to sell things at $20, they want them a little bit cheaper. So bottom line, this is a great alternative to a Dremel. It costs less and does more. How can you go wrong? And you can't. Now let's talk about wiring. Everyone thinks, oh, you have to get specific wiring for your train set. You have to buy it from model railroad dealer, etc. online, or model railroad specific wiring, etc. Well, that's blatantly false. This is let me show you what you normally would get for that. This is a spool of wire. As you can see, it's a little bit disorganized. This will get you. Back in the day, it would have been a few dollars. Now it'd be about $12 for about 10. Be about $12 for about 5 feet, something ridiculous like that. It's stranded wire, and it is not solid copper. It's okay. It does the job well enough. The thing is, why would you do that when for a few dollars less you can get this? This is from my local hardware shop. This is, I believe, from Lowe's, actually. It's 50 feet of telephone wire. This is a secret weapon I like to use. This is a very high quality type of wiring, solid copper, and again 100 feet of it. And just to show you, this is the sealed section I bought a few of these. If we take a look at the wiring itself, it is essentially the same stuff, only put in a sheave so you don't have to, or a conduit, so you don't have to worry about it getting entangled. And again, it's solid copper, and it does the job better, and it costs less than the model railroad wiring. And on top of everything else, it's even higher quality, so this really is perfect. Now, admittedly, this is not good for bus wiring. For that, I recommend speaker wiring. You can usually find that for a quarter of the price of what you'll find the model railroad wiring. I find that works really well. Well, as for this is great for signal wiring. This is great for lining up your signals, etc., wiring up old school analog switches to even the electronic control units that they have now, the remote control units that Digitrax makes, etc. This will work great for that. It's great for general lighting and the layout. It works for pretty much all that without any problem. It's also much more reliable, again, than the standard model railroad wiring, and again, it costs less. So why wouldn't you deal with that? Why wouldn't you deal with your local hardware shop and grab some of this? It'll just work out better. Now let's talk about everyone's, shall we say, least favorite subject, track cleaning. Over here we have ye standard Walters, or lifelike Walters as they call it, track cleaning solution. This has been made for years. It's still being made to a certain extent by Walters under license because they now own lifelike. I bought this a couple years ago for $9. Now you're talking closer to $15 to $20 for a bottle of this stuff. I forgot how big this is. What is this anyway? This is an 8-ounce bottle. It does the trick, but it has a few disadvantages. For one thing, this particular solution tends to leave a slippery film on the tracks. I find this on my mountain running trains up after I clean things. The locomotives have a less tragic effort as they go up the hill. This is to say the wheels spin much easier as there's less there's a friction modifier on the track. Apparently, from what I understand, from what I've heard, that's actually supposed to be an anti-corrosive material, or property rather, that this solution has in it that is supposed to make the tracks more resistant to corrosion and essentially more reliable in the long run. But I find personally all it does is cause headaches. It doesn't really help with that very much at all. So here's my solution to it. Normally I would have said get a bottle of rubbing alcohol. But with the obvious health crisis going on, that's kind of tricky. So here's my best way around that. Again, here's my alternative to that, I should say. These are lens wipes. They are alcohol wipes. They come in usually a big box like this. You'll spend about $20 for this. I think I spent about 10 for this, or 20. Actually, this was $20. I got 100 wipes in it, I believe, if I remember correctly. These are pre-sealed alcohol wipes, all set to go. All you do is rip it open, attach it, and just rub down the track section that you need to clean. Or you can even bunch this up and put it underneath a track cleaning car and let it, or one of those track cleaning pads, and let your train drag it along and clean the tracks for you. It costs less. It's all pre-treated, and you probably have these around your house already if you wear glasses like I do. So it comes in really handy, I have to say. Now let's talk about another subject which I want to tackle here: tools. There are certainly comprehensive tool sets you can get for your model railroad sets that work very well. I find for most of my models, though, and you've probably seen this if you've seen a lot of my films, that one of these comprehensive sets off the shelf from Walmart, again, this will usually sell for $10. I picked this up for $5 about a year ago now. I've been using it like crazy, and it's every possible bit you could possibly need for the model railroading is what I find, and does the job very well. Now that's a little bit too steep for you, and that is, you're a man or a woman after my own heart. I understand the needs of getting most value out of everything you can, because believe me, that's how I think. Then you can go to your local dollar store and pick up these. Okay, fine, they're not the greatest things in sliced bread, but I actually find that one of these basic screwdriver sets you pick up at a dollar store will do the job just as well. They're not the last thing in quality, but they're well enough. You can get into tight little spaces with them, no issue at all. They handle the screws very nicely. They really pretty much do everything you could possibly ask for. About the only thing wrong with them is that they're a bit on the cheap side, but again, for $1, if it breaks, just replace it, or for $2 even, just replace it. Don't worry about it very much. And of course, if you want something slightly higher end, you can go to your local Walmart again and buy one of these sets. I bought this, which I've been using to work on other projects. This is a Hart precision screwdriver set. It again gives me a lot of the tools I need to work with. Functions very nicely. Now, another little trick I've found, too, is that you can get tweezers. This is a comprehensive set of tweezers I bought on Amazon. They do the job. These are electronic tweezers with all kinds of crazy accessories in them. Let me actually turn this over. They come in this nice little tool belt. They do the trick, but you're going to spend about $20 for them. My advice, actually, go to your local Walmart, and I don't have mine handy, but actually look at the cosmetic section and buy some cosmetic tweezers. Please note that the metal parts on those may not be appropriate to work with plastic. However, they will do the trick when it comes to working with metal components and getting other little things back into place, especially working with wires, etc., just to kind of align them so you can get them in place to solder or to get them in place to screw themselves down. They come in really handy, especially particularly for getting little pieces into place for like plastic horns and stuff, getting those into place while you set them up with crazy glue. Really comes in handy because you don't want to get your fingers full of that stuff, because they'll start sticking to the part you're trying to glue, and they can create a whole other problem in themselves. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed this little short trip. Again, I'm a short trip through the sort of economizing and model railroading, as I think I'm going to call this, because that actually comes with a very smooth ring to it. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to post them. And again, please, if you have any idea where I can get an E60CP, old school pancake motor design from the early period of Bachmann, please let me know. I'd be really appreciative of that. Please feel free to post a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, as always, keep the metal side, which is your wheels, down on the track. See you next time, folks.